And so, Shannon, whenever you have a chance to kind of start, go for it.
Sure. Well, first of all, before I get started here, I just want to welcome everybody for coming. I guess as we define coming right now, which is sitting in front of our computers. This is the closest we can get to each other, but it seems to work. We're managing. And Hallie, I did just want to say again, just to reiterate when you and I had our phone conversation a couple of weeks ago, what you've done here is really impressive and really admirable. And I commend you for it. When I was your age, I did not have any interest in doing anything like what you have done. Nor was I, you know, thinking that it was something I could do. So, you setting this up, I think is wonderful, just wonderful. And I'm happy that we made a connection via Annie, who is your AAU coach, and her and I were hired at St. Joseph High School in Trumbull the exact same year as part of the women's basketball staff. So we've known each other for almost 8 years now. And our coaching philosophies are very similar. The main difference between her and I is, and Annie will attest to this because she says it often, is that she's very happy as an assistant. I am a head coach. I have been an assistant for a while, but I find it very hard to work for other people, we'll say. And maybe when you young women get off in your life and start joining the workforce, you will discover the same thing about yourselves. And I hope that you do. I hope that you are your own boss someday. But I wanted to just let you know, I took quite a bit of time to prepare for what I was going to present to you all. So if you see me looking to the side, I am reading off of a document, but I didn't want to spend my time umming and, going through my words and stumbling and such. So I wanted to give you as much information as I could. So I do want to just start briefly by giving you guys a bit of my background because it is quite varied. I was born in Connecticut in 1989. So in a lot of ways, based on the geography of where I was born, my height, I'm about 6 feet tall, left-handed. And those two things specifically, along with what was happening in the landscape of women's sports from the mid-90s to the mid-2000s, I have, upon reflection as an adult now, it seems to me to be fated that I was going to be involved in athletics in some capacity. So when I was 6 years old, UConn won their first national championship. University of Connecticut is the winningest women's basketball program in the United States. They have 11 national championships. Their first came when I was 6, and they proceeded to win 5 more in the next 9 or 10 years. And along with that, the United States women's national team won the World Cup in 99 when I was 10. Serena and Venus Williams won their first majors in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you kind of see where I'm going with this. So a lot of things happened in the landscape of women's sports between 95 and 04. And those were really formative years for me as a young person from ages 6 to 15. So a lot of development happened. And aside from athletics, outside of athletics, I connected to art. That was the first thing that I really connected to as a young person. Athletics kind of were pushed on me for the reasons that I just listed, but outside of athletics, art was really the first thing that I connected to. I was very skilled at drawing. So when I left high school and went on to college, I pursued degrees in design and then a master's degree in architecture. So my professional career is as an architect. I recently switched jobs. So actually September 1st, I'm starting as a project engineer in construction management. So I have quite a diverse education and experience background within the architecture and construction management fields. When I got out of graduate school and got hired as an architect, I also was hired as a coach within 2 weeks of each other. So both things happened at the exact same time. And 7 years into my career coaching and working in an architecture firm, it became very clear to me that I would have to find a way to combine both my profession and my passion. So coaching was always a passion of mine, and architecture obviously is my profession. So if you guys are lucky in your lives, we often say that you choose your profession, but you find your passion. So the goal for anyone really, I think, is to have an opportunity to combine the two and not have to choose either or. So when I got out of school, I was working at a firm in coaching, and I quickly found that the rewarding nature of working with young women and being around the sport that I loved and mentoring and self-educating and challenging myself as a leader, I was not finding that in an office environment. And I struggled with that for about 18 months because I had invested so heavily in my education and financially in pursuing that. And it took me a while to figure out how I was going to make peace with it. So I left and decided to become a construction manager and diversify my skills. But then COVID happened, as you all are well aware. So I was hired at one of the biggest firms in Connecticut, but my start date was pushed back 5 months because of the pandemic. And in that time, I started unTITLED. I don't believe in boredom, and I hope none of you guys do either. So I started unTITLED. The mission being is really drawn from our tagline, which is support the girls. And anything that I conceive of or want to do has to in some way revert back to that or serve that in some way. Has to be about supporting the girls. And as I've been coaching, you know, it's become very clear to me that one of the easiest ways that I or any other coach can support you all is by having conversations with you. So the first thing that we launched was the podcast to start having conversations, and the social media platform, and a lot of different things are in development at the moment. But it started with the podcast. It started with the desire to have conversations. The pillars of unTITLED are actually something that I wrote on a note card on April 22nd, and I have it on my desk to remind myself every day, are leadership, visibility, expression, and womanhood. And so those are the 4 things that I go back to when I'm trying to develop content or different things that I want to explore. And the 3 ways that we're looking to do that are through conversation, as I mentioned, design, which is what my background is in, and media as well, which is more what the social media is at the moment. So we're in our infancy, but the number of branches that I have in my brain are quite overwhelming. But I would say to you all, like anything else, you just have to start. So the intention was never for this to just be a podcast. I knew that from the beginning, but in order for me to get to, you know, arms 6, 7, and 8, I had to start. So after a couple of months of conceptualizing and organizing all of my experience and thoughts, and we launched in the end of June, and I'm happy to hear, Hallie, that you have shared the podcast with everyone that's here. There are some really great conversations, especially one with Coach Fabry, who's the head women's basketball coach at Quinnipiac, because we do give some time to her talking about, you know, what she looks for in recruits and in players. And I know that a lot of the young women here have aspirations to compete at the collegiate level. So hearing that from a coach definitely will give you guys a better idea of what you may or may not want to focus on between now and then. So 4 pillars again: leadership, which we'll talk about ad nauseum later. It's a very big passion of mine. Visibility, which is, you know, who are you and what do you value, right? Well, what is that? Oftentimes, I believe when you take away the sport from a professional athlete, that oftentimes is the least interesting thing about them, the sport that they play, right? You know, it's not really about what you do, it's more about who you are. So who are you and what do you value? These are questions that I ask my players. From day one, 7, 8 years ago, I vowed to not treat them like kids, because everyone else in their life already does that. Mom and dad treat them like kids, give them rules. Teachers give them rules, what to do, guidance counselors. A coach does not need to be a negative presence in a young person's life. That doesn't mean that they let them get away with everything, but it means that they should try to elevate them to something more than what they are believed that they are, which is just a kid. So if we ask them big questions at age 14, well, all of a sudden, they start to consider these things, and their worldview gets a bit bigger, and they think, well, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can do those things. The third is expression. So what I encourage my players to do a lot is to use their voice, which I'm sure is a phrase that all of you have heard before in some capacity. Use your voice, etc. How do we do that? Well, the first thing is, as a mentor and a coach, it's to understand that the voices of your players are of value, right? A lot of coaches kind of enter the gym or walk on the pitch and I'm here, here's what we're doing, X, Y, Z, bye, see you tomorrow. Okay, so it's more about, I'm here, this is my title, everyone listens to me, we go home, we come back the next day. So if you look at your players as valuable contributions to what it is you're trying to accomplish, as opposed to just people to execute whatever that vision is for you, like little minions, you know, you're going to have a much more fruitful relationship with them and probably a much more successful team. So the first thing I like to do is just value what they have to say, right? Value what they have to say. Young people tend to not speak out because they think they're too young, they shouldn't have an opinion, or they don't feel like there's a platform for them to get out what they need to say or would like to say in a constructive and intentional way. So that's one of the focuses too of what I'm trying to do at unTITLED is I have 4 or 5 of my former players who have personal stories that they want to share, whether it was how they got through an injury, what their thoughts were on the concussions that they had and what they'd like to share about that experience, or, you know, different social and political issues that are going on in the world today and how that affects them. There's nowhere for them to really speak that out unless it's on Instagram or Twitter, and that can get kind of messy. So to have a platform like unTITLED for them to share those stories, I think is just wonderful. They feel like they can't say it because, again, they're too young, or who cares what I have to say. But if you have the right platform to do it, it's incredibly powerful. And how many young athletes have gone through injuries, or how many young athletes have had confidence issues, or how many young athletes have not really gotten along with their coach, and how do I rectify that? You know, there's so many things that we can share with each other. And it's wonderful that we see high profile athletes talking about them, but really it's this community here. We're the majority. You guys are the majority of the athletes that exist. Your high school athletes who are aspiring to play in college, or your youth athletes that are aspiring to play in high school or college. That's the majority of our female athlete population, you know, not the professional athletes. So it's nice to be able to have a platform for them to do that. Okay. The last word is womanhood. And, you know, guys, as you grow up, I hate to sound like an adult, but as you grow up, it's really a journey. You know, the woman you are at 18 is totally different to the one you are at 27 or 30. And I really hope that that's true for you all, because that means that you're living voraciously and bravely, and you're getting out there and you're experiencing things and you're confronting failure and you're having big conversations and you're connecting to other people and you're really living in a rich way. So what I like to say, and when unTITLED really hit me, I was sitting on a couch and I'm like, that's it, that's the name. Because less than 2% of young women who play high school basketball in the United States go on to play Division I. So that leaves 98.4% of young women who play basketball that go on to do what? They go to college, they join the workforce, right? So when you take away the rings that are in the championship rings that are in your drawer changing color, or the trophies that are collecting dust, or whatever else, what is left? That's really what unites all of us. How do we get through the day? How do we reckon with failure? How do we build confidence in each other? How do we talk about leadership? How do we practice leadership? These are all things that you should be spoken to about, and you should try to practice in an intentional way, because the ultimate goal and responsibility, I believe, for myself is to try to equip you with those things, since 98.4% of you will not be playing athletics in college. That is the statistic, unfortunately. However, you will be going on to do something incredibly exciting, which is live your life, okay? And whatever that form that looks like is completely unique and powerful to you. And the goal is that you will all go on and not only advocate for yourselves, but for other people. And those are the things that you learn in athletics. That is the beauty of athletics, right? You fail, you have to collaborate with others, you have to confront things that you're scared about, you have to be disciplined in rigor and practice. You guys, I assume everybody here plays sports. How much do you practice? You practice a heck of a lot more than you actually compete in games. I mean, and that's a lot of what life is, right? Day to day is just kind of the grind. And then once in a while, you have something great happens. You have a big event to go to, you get a new job, someone wonderful comes in your life, those are like the games, right? Every day really is just practice. So how do we navigate that? And how do we do it, with confidence? So lastly on Untitled is really the process that we want to explore all these things. Okay, so I mentioned conversation, which of course is a podcast, and I'm in the process of developing more content that puts conversation at the forefront. There's 2 IGTV series that I'm going to be launching the next couple weeks. One is going to focus on me having conversations with other youth coaches, because there's not enough of that. And one is going to focus on me having conversations with younger athletes like you all, high school, college, or recently out of college athletes, and how they're handling that transition. Design, which is graphics, and apparel, which is, down the line. Can't do everything at once, but a lot of design is going to be in there. And then I've always had a vision for how we can engage athletes in design, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And then media, which is the video content that we're developing. And right now it's pretty much me, and I will be starting a new 40-hour-a-week job in September. So it's going to be it's a passion project, we'll say. So we're trying to get going and see what we can do here. Okay, how are we doing? Pretty good on time. Next thing, which is the most important to me, is leadership. And I hate to tell you all, but you will probably work for someone throughout your life who's not a great leader, or cross paths with someone who's not a very great leader. Our world, unfortunately, is made up of many of them. And so I like to do 2 things. One is, how do I define it to my players? And I define it with 1 word. Leadership to me, and as I present it to them, is behavior. 100%. That's what it is. It's consistency of behavior. It's the quality of your behavior. That is exactly what leadership is, right? We say, lead as you are, or lead authentically. But in order to do that, in order to practice that, you have to have a strong sense of self-awareness, right? Who am I? Like we said at the beginning, who am I and what do I value, right? If you're not asking young athletes these questions, how are you expecting them to lead people? What are they really trying to do? Just be the person who's the loudest or the most vocal, be the person who leads the stretch, be the person who sends the team text out. That's not leadership. That's task management. That's, a middle manager telling people to do things and execute things for them. That's not leadership, right? Aside from defining it, how do I talk about it? Well, I talk about it as if it's an idea and not a title, because that's really where we get into trouble, especially with young people, is we boil leadership down to a title that's bestowed onto a person, or we attach it to a job. So for instance, if you're in the workforce, right, say you work in IT, I don't know, your manager who you work for theoretically is a leader, right? Because he's in a managerial position. He must be a leader. Completely false, right? It's not something that you attach to a job title. It's something that you have to practice. So I present it as an idea and not as a title, because in my experience with high school athletes, oftentimes they covet the title of captain on a varsity team, because they feel like if they get it, everybody will respect them now, everybody will want to listen to what they have to say, and they can add it to their resume when they apply to colleges. So it's a title that they want to get just to check a box, as opposed to something that they can live every day in small and large ways, which is really what it is, right? So if it's about an idea or a pursuit of that idea, then it's about how you behave and about how you treat others, as opposed to the C on your jersey or anything else, right? The perks that come with that. And it's important to empower young women by teaching them that leadership is not something meant for someone else, right? It's not meant for the person who holds the title or the captainship. Everyone can lead from where they are. And that should be spoken about at length to young people. My fifth graders, my 10-year-olds, we talk about leadership. And it's oftentimes is the first exposure that they have to it. But it's better to hear that word as a 10-year-old girl than 23 years old in an office and hear it for the first time. Because once you are exposed to it, well, now you can start to kind of define what it is to you. And if you're aware of it, then you can look out for it and you can see how people lead and think, I don't think I want to do what they're doing, or, you know, she's doing something really great. I really look up to how she does stuff. But if you're not exposed to it, you can't make those observations and you can't fill in those blanks for yourself to inform how it is that you are going to live it. So we talk about that. Fifth graders, seventh graders, freshmen in high school, seniors in high school. You know, I can't stress enough how much young people, but people in general, just think that, you know, when you get a certain job, that automatically means that you know how to lead. It is so separate, but that's what we've been taught. That's just, you know, how we were raised, especially, you know, my generation and the one before us, is that, you know, you don't challenge people in authoritative positions. Now, you don't disrespect them, but certainly if you have a question, you should feel comfortable enough to ask it. Or if you feel like they're not treating everyone in a fair way or doing their job, you should have the freedom to express that in a respectful way. But, you know, I was raised not to do that. Teachers are one thing, coaches are another thing. Everybody who holds a title is someone that you just listen to. And what we really want to teach them is that, like I said previously, it's not for someone else. Everyone can lead from where they are. You don't have 12 girls on a varsity basketball team and one captain and the other 11 just stand around and do nothing. It has to be something that's lived in every day. And it can be in really, really subtle ways. Like, you know, taking time to observe your teammates. I always tell my players who are aspirational leaders that you should really try to be the first one at practice. And you should try to be the one that kind of lingers at the end for a couple of reasons. The main one being that you can observe everyone coming in. So right away, you're noticing body language, who's on time, who's late, who looks like they had a bad day. And before you even start practice, you have this coda in your head where you say, okay, she's going to need a little extra love today. She seems good. She seems on par with how she normally is. And then in practice, when things get challenging or you have a hard drill or whatever it is that you're doing, you have that mental note to say, all right, I got to go over to her and give her an extra pat on the back. That's leadership. 100%. There are plenty of captains and leaders across this country who don't do that. They just rest on that title. And then at the end of practice, I always tell them, and I do this and I practice this as a coach, I have some one-on-one interaction with every single one of my players before they leave. And a lot of times it's just a high five. I'll go through them all, taking their shoes off and whatever else they do, and just high five all of them. And 9 times out of 10, they're staring at their shoes, unlacing them, but they have to look up at me and we look in each other's eyes and we high five. And then I get a gist again, how is she now? I make a mental note of that for the next day. Or I make a note to maybe send a nice text 3 hours later, make sure that they're good, you know? But you should really try before practice or games and after practice or games to have some kind of one-on-one interaction with every one of your teammates. So you have a gist of where they are in their headspace and their physical space before you guys go out and either a tackle practice or a game together. It's a wonderful, easy leadership practice. The problem with it is it takes some effort. And a lot of people don't want to do it. They'd rather just show up, do their thing, get out. But it will make you a much more effective leader as a young person and later on in life. So let's get into Hallie will do like 15 minutes or so here, just so we leave some time if anybody has any questions. I have the fourth part of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was just to offer some strategies for young athletes. And we already touched on a couple of them now that I've been talking, but I think I have 5 here. So first strategy that I would offer to you all as young athletes to better yourselves as young women, leaders, etc. The first practice is self-reflection. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you as a female to have a comfortable relationship with yourself. And that could be, you know, on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday night, everybody wants to go here and you decide, I'm just going to stay in tonight. I'm going to read that book I always wanted to read, or I'm going to watch that movie I always wanted to read. Or you're just going to hang out with yourself. There are things that society pumps into us as young girls, little like checkpoints, you know. By 21 I should have a degree. By 26 I should be engaged. By 29 I should be married. Okay, so these societal things that we get fed as girls, right? Those are okay, sure. But what you really want to do is understand the difference between being alone and being lonely, right? So being alone is something that, you know, I want to hang out today. I'm going to go for a walk by myself. I'm going to practice some form of self-care on a daily basis. That's being alone. That's a wonderful thing. And as young as you guys can hear that, I really think it's going to benefit you, because we have a sense of being like, I need to be out there all the time. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing this. I need to be trying to achieve this. I need to be trying to whatever else, right? But self-reflection is an incredibly powerful tool. And the more time that you spend with yourself, the more comfortable you'll be with yourself, and the better teammate you'll be, the better friend you'll be, the better partner you'll be. Every relationship that you have in your life, the stronger the relationship is with yourself, that will feed into your other relationships. Second thing, ask big questions, guys. Ask big questions. Don't be afraid to do that. If you have the opportunity to go to college, and a lot of people don't, if you do, that's what college is. Ask big questions. Ask the things that you can't ask in the workforce, or you can't ask when you're younger. Explore those things. These are the questions that I talked about earlier with my kids. 4 really big ones, right? Who do I want to be? Not what do I want to do? Not what job do I want to have? Who do I want to be? What do I value? What's important to me? What makes me tick? What keeps me up at night? What do I want my life to look like 10, 20, 40 years from now? What do you want it to be? Right? And am I a positive impact on other people? Those 4 questions. Who do I want to be? What do I value? What do I want my life to look like? And am I a positive impact on other people? Do I have a positive impact on other people? Excuse me. Those are huge, huge questions. You know, take 10 minutes today or tomorrow or the next day and think about them. It's impossible for you to know the life that you want if you don't think about what you want it to look like, right? If we're going to be great, if we're going to live that life that we all dream that we're going to, that greatness starts with a clear vision of what your future is going to look like. And then you can't, you know, take steps to get there if you don't know what that looks like, right? Whatever, big or small, anything you're conceiving of, think about it at the end. What does it look like at the end? And then you can fill in the blanks to get there. All right, number 3, connect. This is very important. My young life did not exist online. When I was in high school, we still had to pay for texting, and no one's parents paid for that. So you called their house phone to talk to them, and there was no Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, any of it. When I was in high school, Facebook was still, you had to have a college email to join. It wasn't open to anybody. You had to be 18 or older. So connecting can be a tricky subject. And I think it's the responsibility of coaches and mentors nowadays to construct situations in their practices where they force their kids to connect with each other. But you want to be very conscious of the people in your life who you connect with. Oftentimes, those are the people who are the most honest with you. They're not there to simply pacify you or tell you how great you are or how talented you are. Whether it's in a small or a large way, they help you to be better. And it does take bravery to recognize those people and to take the effort to keep them into your life, which is really what you want to do. Be conscious of the people who are honest with you and who don't always tell you what you want to hear. Those are the people, make a mental note of them. Try to keep those people in your life. Coach Gino Auriemma at UConn has a story that he tells. He's told on multiple occasions. Back in 2000, maybe some of you weren't even born then. Back in 2000, when he went out to recruit Diana Taurasi, when he went into his home to recruit her, he essentially told her that she was full of it. She's the best player. She was the best player in the country at that time. He went there to recruit her because she was the best player in the country at the time. And he essentially told her that she was full of it. The difference between great players or players with the potential to be great over everybody else is that those people want to be told the truth. That's the difference. So they want to be challenged. They want structure. And he pretty much told her that wherever she was going to go was going to be exactly like it was for her then. She'd be the most talented. She'd be able to do whatever she wanted. But he got her to believe that she craved something more than that. And you want to know how many coaches came into her home and told her that? He was the only one. So be very conscious of the people in your life who tell you how great you are constantly. If mom and dad do it, that's awesome. Great. But everyone else in your life, teachers, mentors, coaches, anybody else, be very conscious of those people. The ones that are honest with you are oftentimes the ones who have your best interest at heart. Okay, create. I'll go through this one pretty quick. I wrote a lot about it, but we'll give you guys the gist. I really encourage my players to have some kind of creative outlet because I really feel like it stretches you in a lot of really good ways. People will say, you know, everything good happens outside of your comfort zone, and they think that you need to like climb a mountain to get out of your comfort zone. There are very small ways to get out of one's comfort zone that you don't need to risk your life to do so. And having a creative outlet for a lot of kids is one of those ways to really stretch themselves. My young girls that I've had are very heavily math and science. I don't know what it is about your generation, but you are all very smart in math and science. I don't get it. They're not humanities type people, which is what I am. English, literature, language, history, art, etc. So I encourage them to take a creative outlet. Now, it's a lot for high school kids to do that. They think, oh my God, I have school and then I have sports and now I have to like have a creative outlet. What am I going to do with that? That's too much. So I encourage them to incorporate that into their day. You know, I don't know what is offered to you all in terms of classes that you can take, but I really encourage you to take a creative one, something that's art related or graphics related or theater related. The one class that I tell my young women at St. Joe's to take every year is theater. And they're like, we're not taking theater. I'm not doing that. It's embarrassing, et cetera, et cetera. There are very important reasons why you should take theater, okay? The first one is critical, emotional intelligence, right? You're out of your comfort zone immediately. You risk embarrassment and failure every day. But stretching yourself in that way will allow you to build tolerance for your mistakes and keep perspective, which is something nearly every young athlete struggles with. They make a mistake in a game, head goes down, they're done. Okay, they have a very hard time with failure, mostly because they have a hard time feeling like they are embarrassed by the mistake they just made. If you do theater, that will not be a problem for you anymore because you will mess up daily. And you will have a chance to keep yourself present in the moment, maintain perspective, and just get back and do the next thing, right? Emotional intelligence is huge for you guys. presence, right? Theater is about navigating space. Okay, you're navigating either a stage or a set, whatever it is, in collaboration with other people, which is something that you do in sports, right? Field hockey, soccer, basketball, whatever the sport is, you are navigating space in conjunction with other people. Okay, so if you do that in theater, you have a better understanding of your body, how it moves, and how to read the reactions of other people. Okay, another thing with emotional intelligence. Collaboration, totally a team sport, theater, 100%. 100% a team sport. Another way for you to collaborate outside of athletics will make you stronger in your respective sport. And then the last one is really, I think, the most important for girls especially, is communication, right? I think the easiest piece of advice I can give you all when it comes to communicating with other people, especially teammates, is you want to talk to people, not at them. Okay, so be very conscious of your tone. And why I say theater is because you have to say lines, right? Or sing. So you have to hear yourself constantly. You have a much better understanding of what you sound like and how you come off to other people. That directly translates into your team setting, into whatever the sport it is that you play. All right? But at its core, you want to talk to people, not at them, right? You're not shouting orders, you are having a conversation with another person. So if you look at it in that way, I think you'll have a better understanding of how to adjust your tone or your body language so that you can connect with them in a one-on-one way. All right, I'm sorry, Hallie, I just scrolled past. So just really quick, my strategies for you guys: self-reflection, ask big questions, connect, find a creative outlet, and the last one, which is the most important, especially for young women, is to self-educate. Okay, do not rest on what other people tell you. Go out, form your own opinion, gather your own information, and then form your opinion. Whether it's reading materials, the internet, conversations with people, experiences in the real world, whatever it is, form your own opinion. Educate yourself. Do not trust what everyone tells you you are supposed to think. This will become a lot easier for you if you go on to college and you're outside of your home and you are sort of free to grow, we'll say, right? On your own terms, which is incredibly important. So self-educate, read books, have conversations, form your own opinion, please. How many, I don't actually can't even ask, but I assume some of you are 18 or going on 18. So in a short time, you will be allowed the right to vote. And if you choose to use that right, wonderful. I encourage you all to do so. But it's yet another arena where self-education is incredibly critical. Form your own opinion, whether it's who you're voting for or what you think about a movie, right? Go see it. Form your own opinion. Don't listen to everybody else. Get out there. Do the work. Hallie, that was pretty much it for me, but I did have a question for everyone else. I don't know if I can ask questions. Is that allowed?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'm interested in trying to understand for you all, what is it in a professional athlete that draws you to them and makes you want to look up to them? Is there something specific that you connect to, or is it just they're the best player and that's why I like them?
Yeah, so I think some people will write it in chat, like Lauren. At least for me.
How do I read that? Sorry.
Oh,
I'm an old person.
If you see, if you're on like another
chat,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Cool. At least for me, I know, kind of looking up, like Lauren said, definitely dedication, and also attitude for me is like a big thing. And I think generally more successful athletes, not all of them, but at least some of the ones that I personally look up to, have really positive outlooks on life and are very inspiring in that sense. And additionally, I think also when I see athletes that are able to use their platform for something greater, not just their sport. That's something that's pretty inspiring to me and something that I'd like to do hopefully one day. But yeah, that's at least what I think.
That's great, because when I was younger, my athletes that I looked up to were just athletes. I watched them on TV, they played their sport, that was it. Occasionally they showed up in a commercial to sell something, or they were on a Sports Center segment, but I didn't know anything really about them as the women that they were, aside from what they showcased on the soccer field or the basketball court. And I really find that, especially in women's sports, I'll just share a really, really quick story. Back in '99, when the US team won the World Cup, they famously have spoken about the fact that they went door to door to try to sell tickets for their games to a World Cup. And that doesn't happen in men's sports. And it's mostly because men's sports are allowed to evolve as they wish. Women's sports need the permission of other people to really evolve. So we have to do a lot of work to grow our respective games. And even this young generation of athletes, they understand that. That's why they're so connected in social media, and they're so vocal about the things that they're passionate about, because they really believe that there are people out there with the same ideas and beliefs as them. And they really believe that by being authentically themselves, or, bravely pursuing themselves every day, that's the way to encourage and inspire the next generation. And I think I could not agree more. And those are the athletes I look up to, athletes who are in their early 20s, more so than I do ones that are my own age, frankly, because they're so brave about how they talk about things that are important to them and how they use their platform and how unapologetic they are about it. They know who they're talking to. They are well aware of their audience, and they are well aware of the generation that they are speaking to. And that intelligence really comes out in how they use their platforms. And it's so inspiring. It's so inspiring to see them be vocal in any platform and any degree that they do it. And just one more quickly, Hallie, if you guys, and you can put it in the chat, I really appreciate it. What is the one question you would ask a professional athlete that you admire? Because I have my first professional athlete's going to be coming on the podcast. Her name is Jasmine Spencer. She plays in the NWSL for the All Reign, the Seattle team. She also, in the midst of COVID, started her own sustainable clothing company. So, and she's a philanthropist as well for climate. So she's a professional soccer player in the most competitive league in the world, in my opinion. She's a business owner and a philanthropist. That's the kind of visibility that Untitled started for, right? Everyone wants to talk to the very high profile athletes, but the visibility of her is so incredible for you guys. You don't have to be any one thing, right? Either or is a complete myth. Just doesn't exist. We grew up thinking women had to be this or that, essentially, or you had to sacrifice one to be the other. No, not anymore. Not anymore. And she's really showcasing that. Professional athlete, business owner, and a philanthropist. It's incredible. And she's like 25. It's there, and her visibility matters. So if you guys could, what is one question that you would ask a professional athlete that you admire? What would you want to know? What's the one thing you would ask them? And then last thing from me, Hallie, is just we're on Instagram at untitled.offic. Follow, spread the word, engage, have some really good stuff in development. The next podcast comes out on Thursday. It's with a film director, Jenna Ricker, who directed the latest 30 for 30 documentary for ESPN called Qualified, about Janet Guthrie, who was the first woman to qualify for the Indianapolis 500 in 1976. This is Jenna's first documentary she's directed, but she did direct 2 feature films prior to that. And, you don't have to be an athlete or a coach to be connected to sport or to work in sport. There are tons of different ways to come at it. And our conversation is really, really wonderful. Anybody out there who likes movies and sports, this is for you. If you're a movies and sports person, listen to the interview with Jenna coming out on Thursday. And also, guys, I mentioned I want to use younger athletes' voices as content. if you have something you want to share, an experience, a thought, if there's a player that you admire that you'd like to, one of my kids wrote a letter to Sabrina Ionescu because the WNBA is going to get started next week. So she wrote, "Dear Sabrina," and she's going to do a 1-minute video of her talking about why she's her favorite player and why she admires her. And that's going to go up. It's just her sharing something personal that's important to her. If you have anything you would like to share, shoot me a DM. We'll see if we can collaborate. I think that your voices are really important. And the fact that you're all here today means that we're kind of on the same wavelength. We have the same interests and ideas in that regard. And I would love to hear from you guys. I really would. And thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I actually talked to Annie about last week and she said, "I think I said too much." I'm like, "I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure it was fine. So that would be it for me. We're good, right?
Yeah, thank you so much. Clearly, I also say a lot too. So, but
no one even notices it. I think we're all just very critical of ourselves, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know personally, I learned a lot, and I think it was a very inspiring talk. And it was so great to learn about what you've done and your leadership philosophies. That was really awesome. Guys, if you have any questions for Shannon, please put them in chat, or you can raise your hand. Personally, I don't have, weirdly enough, a raised hand button on Zoom right now, but if you put like a thumbs up or something like that, you could do that, or just like raise your hand on cam. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Just so everyone knows, next week we're going to have another guest speaker. His name is Max Ringer, and he's a sports entrepreneur, a college athlete at Cornell, and an athletic activist with a focus on women in athletics as well. So I'm really excited for his talk. So make sure you come next week, 2:00 EST. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here. And Shannon, again, this was such a really great talk, and I really appreciate you spending your time and doing this on a Sunday afternoon. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It gives me the encouragement to keep pursuing what I am, to see you all showing up. I wish you guys all the best of luck in your athletic and academic careers. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Hallie. I'm happy we were able to connect, and good luck with the rest of your student speaker series.
Thank you so much. All right, guys.
So welcome.
If no one else has any questions, I think I will end the meeting here, but thank you all so much for coming. And I say thank you a lot, but thanks again, Shannon.
That's okay. No problem.
I will
see you
later. Awesome. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.